Welcome to the Everyday Matters podcast, a show from NetSmart. Everyday Matters is about the opportunity we have to make a difference. Our collective, cause-connected mission is about impacting healthcare in meaningful ways. We seek to provide a place to share stories about the progress being made, how to overcome challenges, and ideas to inspire. Each conversation is about the work being done and the opportunity before us. Whether it's about advocacy, awareness, or challenging stigmas, we know that together anything and everything is possible. Let's get into the show where we learn from yesterday in pursuit of tomorrow. Here, we all work to ensure every day matters.
Well, thank you for joining us for another Everyday Matters podcast, an opportunity to share and tell the stories of others who are making a significant impact in our community near and afar. And today I'm really excited. I have an opportunity to not just have someone that is doing some amazing work, but someone who I call a friend. And our connections and conversations have challenged me in all aspects of my life, at home, in our community, and in our workplace. And we're going to talk about some of those today and really talk about the opportunity where technology can be more of a complement than a complicate. And I think there's no question today, all of us would admit, and we know that technology is a really good thing, but left uncontrolled or managed, it really takes us from the pursuit of who we want to be, whether that's as a person, whether that's as a family, in my role as a worker, or even in just my connection near and afar. So joining me today is Tracy Foster, Executive Director at START. And rather than me give a lengthy intro or bio, I'm just going to start talking to Tracy and let her talk a little bit about who she is and what she does. Tracy, thank you very much for joining the podcast. Not our first time, but it is our first time doing this on Everyday Matters. I appreciate you taking the time to be here.
It is my pleasure and privilege and honor. So thank you so much, Tom. It's so good to be here.
So can you just begin by a little bit of your role, and then we'll jump into maybe a little background, if you don't mind, and then we'll jump into the organization of START as we begin our conversation today.
Yeah, so I am a former strategy consultant. So I love taking big problems and breaking them down and figuring out how people and organizations might be able to solve them. And I spent about a decade doing that in the social sector. So working for large funders, the biggest ones, down to even some local organizations without giving away specific names. And it was just a blast to be able to help them think about, they want to help eradicate AIDS in Africa. What does that look like? What interventions? What ways? How do you focus? What is the strategy that can help you have the greatest impact? And I loved it. I felt like I had my dream job, Tom. It was exactly what was the perfect fit for me. And then about 4 years ago, this issue of what do we do with technology? When do we give our kid a phone? How do we feel about social media? Those were questions that all the parents before me had just kind of been, navigating as part of the social experiment. And it was at that juncture where myself and two others started to say, we're starting to hear some side effects. We're starting to hear from those parents who are just a little bit ahead of us down the road that there are some problems that are coming.
Yeah.
And so what do we do? And so we just started talking about this issue. Our goal was to actually get someone else to create kind of a pitch, a proposal that someone else could come in. Maybe Common Sense Media could expand to serve in this way. And ultimately, it's just completely consumed us and become what is now START.
Well, Tracy, you must like taking on those challenges, because I can't think there's a handful of daunting and challenging things in our society right now. And this is one of them. So you must just be loving it and in your wheelhouse, because we know that while we are connected to many things, I don't always know if we have great connection. That's been part of the problem with technology. And so let's go back just a little bit. I want to give everyone kind of how START started. I'm going to have a hard time not saying that.
I know. Well, and Tom, you might want to edit this out, but we can talk afterwards. We are going to change our name officially.
Oh, you are?
Yeah. I don't know exactly when it'll launch, maybe sometime later this summer, but because our name is a problem, because it's not Googleable.
Yes.
Half of the people call us smart. Then if someone says, what does START stand for? The other day, someone who's a key partner rolling out our program, I felt so guilty. She's like standing up there and she's like, oh my gosh, standing to it's such a problem. So anyway.
Well, let's do this. So so you guys are going to announce that soon, you say?
I think it's probably in a couple months.
Okay. I think the good thing is, I think sometimes people get paralyzed on trying to find the right name. You just have to get started. So you guys got started, you went out there, it's an acronym. So what does the acronym stand for?
The acronym stands for two things. Technically, in our legal organization and the name, it stands for Stand Together and Rethink Technology. But we've also taken those letters and helped to create 5 principles of what we call digital health, just like we think about mental health and physical health. That can be a roadmap for parents.
And so when did this get started by you and the team?
2018.
And when our first connection, I'm trying to think when that interview was.
Oh, either late 2018 or early 2019.
Yeah, it was right there. I think it was late 2018. I think it was in the fall. And why don't you tell everybody what that was? Because not everybody gets that kind of opportunity, and you're being very humble about it. So I'm just going to ask you to call it out because it was a very, very cool experience. But why don't you tell the audience what that was?
We are so glad that you were there. So I think what's interesting about this topic is it is so salient. And right now there are so many organizations just falling on one side of the extreme or the other, thinking, oh, we just can't do anything about it. Wait till big tech saves us from itself.
Right.
Or go to the other side of just give up, give in. By being in that middle ground, there are not very many organizations trying to do that. And so we got found by Diane Sawyer, who was doing a big 2-hour special on screen time. And so she came to Kansas City. Tom was there in the room. Tom made it to the final footage with a nice comedic.
Yes. Who would have thought I would have made a comedic intro into a film?
On Diane Sawyer.
Yes, it was great.
So, yeah, but I think that represents just the fact that people are looking for solutions so much right now. We hear the news, and I'm grateful. There's an increased awareness. Recently, there was a brilliant piece in The Atlantic by Jonathan Haidt.
Yep.
Amazing, talking about this tension that we're facing, like you said, Tom, of being more connected than ever, yet more disconnected from real relationships. And so there's an increasing awareness that there's a challenge. But when you look in the media, almost no one gives you any sense of what to do next. Yeah. You just kind of leave hopeless and helpless. And so that was when Diane Sawyer was looking for organizations that were trying to help equip people to actually do something.
Yeah.
I think she must have had a very short list, and she ended up here with us.
Yeah, it was a great evening, and I think it was a good way to get exposure out there. And I think, this is one of those topics. And this is, Tracy, one of the things that I just absolutely love about your organization is you don't spin on the challenge and the problem. You offer solutions. And we're going to dive into that here in just a second. But before we do, I do want to frame a little bit of the challenge and problem that's out there. And I don't want to just I think so many times people just get caught up in the statistics you already talked about and did the linkage that, hey, these technologies, social media, absolutely is a link to our mental health and well-being. And I don't know how our kids do it. They are asked to compile more input, more data, more awareness than I probably had by the time I was 30. They're already there by the time they're 12. And then we ask, what's wrong? I think my biggest worry as a 12-year-old was playing a pickup game of kickball, and I thought I was safe. And the big argument of the day was us debating, was I safe or was I out? And now kids are being asked way more things that often are unconscionable. Let's be very candid. There's the challenge of predators and other aspects that are found on social media that find our kids. And I often say, I think, sometimes people are more focused on the physical security of their own, when I think the biggest threat is the digital security. And I'm not talking about viruses. I'm talking about how people are connecting with our children. And if you've not looked at your kids' social media, that's probably not great, especially depending upon what age they are. So Tracy, why don't you talk a little bit about, you do a great job at framing. I gave it from my perspective. my dad perspective. I'm part of the Fathers Club, which is just about getting dads engaged here at NetSmart. While we're a technology company, we've had Start come in and teach us and our associates around this. And we're going to get into that in a second. But before we do, Tracy, why don't you talk a little bit about the challenge and the problem, and then I'm going to transition us to the solutions.
Yeah, well, I think what you said, Tom, really nails it, where we hear a lot of times parents coming to us and saying, man, it's harder to be a parent now than ever.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's true. And we want to encourage people to think about the fact that a lot of that is because I would say that it is harder to be a teenager now than ever, for the exact point that you just gave.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the most important things to do here is to start with empathy about the fact that this is a challenge for our kids, because it can so easily be something that we start to just see as, something that we're like slapping our kids' wrists about or criticizing them, and understanding, hey, they are navigating a reality that we never had to.
Agreed. And
how much pressure comes with that. And then the second thing I'll say is that they're navigating this mostly alone. There's no roadmap. And some recent survey data shows from DoSomething.org that so our kids are living their lives in their digital world. That is the main place that they are exploring all of the different relationships and interests and things, right? That's where it plays out. And yet DoSomething.org found from a massive survey that only 14% of teens feel like they have ever had a helpful or productive conversation with any trusted adult about their digital life.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how hard it is to be navigating these things like predators or bullying? Or one of the biggest pressures on teens today is with all of these causes, what are you silent on? How do you make a public stance on every single angle of every single issue? And they're doing that on their own. Yeah. And so that, like you said, I mean, we could spend more time going into the statistics about loneliness or mental health challenges that are being influenced by this, but it's really stemming from that opportunity and pressure to be surrounded by everything in the world, to have all the knowledge, and to be put on the public stage for everything you do.
And to do it with no margin of error, because it's wrong. We don't allow critical thinking anymore. We don't allow discussion. And sometimes we're humans, we get things wrong.
Yes.
And when a kid gets things wrong, or an adult, they're immediately brought out as an example versus, hey, they may be learning their way through that process. Let's have a discussion. And we've gotten into this you're either right or you're wrong, and not allowing the margin for evolution in those discussions.
That's right. And when you see the comments on things like social media posts, I mean, people will say things that are just that they would never say to someone face to face.
Yeah.
So it's so hard. And I know you do this so intentionally with social media. And I think it's really the exception to say, hey, I'm posting a long form piece, which a long form piece is like 4 paragraphs, But hey, this is my opinion. I'm trying to navigate this.
Right.
What do you think? And that is just so uncommon these days.
Yeah, it's also very stressful. Let me just fit that out there. So, and then, so we talked about the kids piece, and if we're going to be really honest, it's also an adulting challenge as well. Maybe even more so in our relationships and how we connect in our homes, our partners, our marriages, and in our family. And, the thing that I appreciate, Tracy, about you and the team is you're not saying no technology. You're not saying no social media. And I think that's the immediate misconception I just want to put out there. Your organization, START, is not about saying no. It's about how do we use these things in the right way at the right time with the right boundaries. Is that a fair summation?
Yes, it makes me think of like the food pyramid.
Yeah.
Junk food's on the food pyramid, or actually I should go back and look. And I know the food pyramid is dating. Now it's a circle, it's a plate.
Yes.
But exactly, we talk about screen time because sometimes people can be so focused just on the number, but it's about quality, not just quantity. And that holds for adults and kids.
Right.
And so we think it all falls into 3 categories. Creating, which is hopefully what most of us are doing during our workday, using Excel spreadsheets, PowerPoint, all of those types of things, or for kids or any of us, finding a recipe and then making the recipe, or making a stop motion video,
right?
Creating, connecting, like what we're doing right now, or consuming.
Yeah.
And so the consumption, there are times where it is a huge gift to be able to consume.
Yeah.
Humans are made to have entertainment in their lives as well. But just like when you're eating a lot more sweets and treats, you start to feel a little bit blah. The same can be true of our little digital food pyramid of sorts if you're just doing so much consuming.
So let's talk a little bit about what you all provide, because it's not just about awareness. And I think that's the whole key. And one of the things we try to do here at Everyday Matters, and the whole concept of Everyday Matters, is how can we do something right here, right now, to make a difference? And I think sometimes we all get caught up in paralysis. I do, on wanting to solve the bigger problem, when one little thing, 1% better today, gets us incrementally to something better tomorrow. So I'm gonna pull up some artifacts that I have here. And the first one is, I want to give you a chance just to brag a little bit. I love the 2021 impact report, where you shared many of the things that you all have done. Do you mind sharing that with our audience? Just a couple of the highlights from the last year. And I like that you called it impact report, because that's how you guys think. We want to make a difference. We want to be a difference. So what things have happened since 2018 that START has done to make a difference? Just a couple.
Yeah, just a couple. Well, I mean, some of these things you just can't make it up. It's like, this is just such a lightning rod thing, and we kind of have the tiger by the tail. So we are so happy to be able to serve as many people as we can. We went from a fact in 2018 where we were just providing programming in person. It was always a trained therapist who was facilitating these in-person sessions. They usually had to be pretty big groups, but it was limited in what we could do to scale it. A blessing that came out of COVID was really being forced to think, hey, that delivery model doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
What does? So we do trainings, tools, and tips. And our training is the heart of our program that used to be done just in person in single rooms. And we realized, what can we do to have a distributed model? So that's where we created the Screen Sanity Group Study. It's a video guided discussion resource that a group of baseball moms can do during baseball practice, or small groups. Or large groups.
Right.
And so what we're seeing is we have been able to release that into the world. And on an almost daily basis, we find out about another group that we never knew about that was doing it. We get an email from someone in Singapore. Some of our biggest momentum is in Australia. So we have people around the world who feel like they are able to bring this message, and they don't need to be the expert. Our tools are all designed to give you the language to have the confidence and competence to start that conversation.
Right.
But with our Screen Sanity program, all you have to do is hit play and then show up ready to have the discussion with some of the questions that are right there packaged for you. So that's probably our biggest thing.
I'm showing this here, and it's the Screen Sanity Group study book. And I will just hat tip to you guys. This creates conversation. And I think in a time when maybe we forgot how to have that, it's done extraordinarily well. Great graphics and detail, but also one of the things that I like is the pause and reflect components. And, just being intentional to take the time to do that. And, when busyness is this thing that just beckons of always the next thing, and we've got alerts and alarms coming on, sometimes we're not even sure what we think because we haven't taken the time to pause and reflect on that. And you guys have done that in this, and really reminding us of something that we must never forget. And it's very well done. If people wanted to find out more about Screen Sanity, where would they go find that at, Tracy?
Yep, you can find it at our website, westartnow.org, or it's also available on Amazon. So you can download it from our website or grab a hard copy, whichever is best for you.
So what's some of the successes that you've heard from the Screen Sanity program?
Yeah, well, it mostly goes back to the little steps that you mentioned. Yeah. People who come, we give a menu of ideas. Well, I'll say a few things. I should go in a couple different directions. One is just the impact that it has on their actual families. We hear stories of someone who says, hey, one thing that was mentioned in there was a device-free dinner. And we started doing that as a family.
What? A device-free dinner? You got to be kidding. There's no way you can have dinner with no devices.
Yeah, right? I know. Well, they trickle in sometimes as accidents. They start there because it's like, now to be fair, my family does Wordle a lot during dinner. And that's okay, because that's connection and we're doing it together. But that's right. For so many people, it just feels like I'm exhausted from the day.
Yeah.
I just like, oh my gosh, let me just sit down and be able to chill out. And one of the things that we say is we are on our devices so much. They do so many good things for us, but we need to find some spaces and places to just make eye to eye and let our brains close some of those tabs.
Well,
and so
I say that jokingly about myself because I just want to make sure everyone understands. I say that because I'm full of guilt. And
all of us are.
Remember the time when I asked my kids, I said, hey, let's go out to eat. And where do you want to go? And their answer wasn't first where we want to go. Their answer was, can we do dinner without our phones? And that's when I knew I had lost my way. I lost balance in that. Because when it wasn't about what we wanted to have for dinner, it was more about we want the time and the attention and the connection. It was a humbling moment, but it was a beautiful moment because I had a choice to make. Am I going to do something different about it right here, right now? And I think often people don't think it's important. It is. I think sometimes kids don't want to talk to us, especially if they get into teenage years and those types of things. Whether they do or don't, let's not make that choice for them. Let's be present. Let's be aware. Let's have those connections and let's put the devices down. And I know, Tracy, you and I've talked at family gatherings. What we've started doing is we put a basket at the front door. And I get it. Our phones are also our cameras and those things. But, we've said, we put a little sign just saying, hey, these times, these holidays, this gathering, our most precious, memorable things are being able to connect with you. And so we're all asking to take a break from our devices and put them in this basket. And I'll tell you, it's changed. It was awkward at first. Some people didn't like it. It was a choice, but it was just our way of saying you're more important than that device. And those little things, I think, go a long way to disrupting status quo. They're hard to do, but they're not hard to do.
Right. But you need to have conviction. And that's one of the things that I'd say is the second element of this is being able to do it with others. Because we're happy to give you ideas. And that's what we do through the videos and the structuring of the content in there. But even if you're just sitting down with one other person, when you're talking about this and going through it, you can say, hey, I think I'm going to put this basket for Thanksgiving.
Right.
And the other person can encourage you, can ask you how it went, can share ideas, might say, hey, you know what? I think I might do that too. There's so much power of trying to journey through this, not alone. And I think you mentioned this earlier, Tom, that now we are just so isolated and polarized and all of these things that we see one of the biggest benefits is just for the adults who participate in our program to be able to talk about the challenges that they're facing in a way that is, as far as we can design it, safe, non-judgmental, warm and welcoming, because that's something all of us just need as humans.
Yeah. And I think I love that you said that, Tracy, is, how we approach the conversation, not as somebody who's being judgmental on those things, and not that I haven't figured out, I don't, in workplace, in meetings. I remember, someone looking at me saying, are you here? And they knew I was there, but what that meant was I was so busy working on another challenge or opportunity on my phone that I wasn't even in the meeting that I was supposed to be in.
I know.
And then we've all probably been in meetings where we look up and we're realizing everyone is on their devices and not engaged here. Maybe we scheduled just a device time and we didn't really schedule a meeting, and we're all here. And that lends to frustration. It leads to unproductiveness.
Yes.
We don't feel as accomplished. And I think most important, the essential collaboration of connecting and just iterating through ideas to get to a better place, that opportunity is missed.
Yes. And they're saying that this is going to be one of the biggest distinctions of kids who are able to thrive and become leaders.
Right.
And I hate using the word successful
because
that's a loaded word, but is the ability to maintain attention.
Yes.
Right. Because we are and I put myself in this. I told Tom earlier that I had to put myself into a physical situation. I needed to think through a big issue. I needed to put myself into a physical situation that would make it so that I couldn't get distracted by my other devices.
Yeah.
Right. But our attention spans are just getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And so the more that we can build those muscles, again, it doesn't need to be all day, every day that we're sitting in a monk monastery.
Right.
But just that we have those abilities to say, hey, when we're going to go deep, because it's absolutely affecting the workforce. When we have people who are just in this state of continuous partial attention, and not able to really address the deep work that needs to happen.
Well, I love the word deep work. And I will tell you, I've had to reorientate my week, and I've done it almost every year now. So I come up with my own plan. You and I are kind of geekish about these kind of things.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear it.
It starts Sunday night, where I have quiet time, disconnected. So I use paper and pen. I still use paper and pencil. No devices. And everybody, I like to record it on my device. I got it, but you know what? I don't trust myself. And so that is carved off time to say, what do I need to attack this week? And then I ask, what do I want the end of the week to look like? So that I get to an end of the week and say, did I accomplish those things? And then each day I actually begin with what I call a DQT, daily quiet time, and 15 minutes to begin the day with nothing else. And I liked how you said it. If we don't exercise attention, we lose the ability to focus. And I realized I'd lost my ability to focus. And we talk about multitasking, and I would brag about multitasking. And what that really meant is I gave a little bit of something to a lot of things, and I didn't give a lot of something to one thing very well. And I just told myself, you're kidding yourself, Tom. That's not really working well. And yeah, you might be doing it, but you're not doing it to the best of your ability. And just a small example of reorientating that, even in not just in my workplace, but with my family. Just sitting down with your spouse, married now for over 30 years, and sitting down and being able to have a conversation with no devices and being intentional around that. Because I remember waking up one day and saying, when's the last time we really had just quiet time of talk without a screen in front of us?
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, those screens get there because you're trying to be productive. I mean, all of that. My addiction, even more that my device is my addiction, but it is because my core inner addiction. I am a natural workaholic.
Yes.
That is just how I'm made. I know it. And I've made
I resemble that statement.
Right?
Yes.
And I've made intentional life choices before devices were a thing to put boundaries.
Right.
And now my device is what has to be it, because it's absolutely something where I can justify, oh, well, let me just do this and this and this and this because I can be productive. I'm not even doing the consumption online right now.
Yeah.
But it still is piecemealing apart our attention. I've actually really started to realize recently that if I have a moment of downtime, I'm tempted to check my email. And why? It's like I have one moment of downtime before I'm about to go do something else. What I see in my email, all it's going to do is flood my brain with open tabs of thoughts of, okay, whoa, that's a good question. Ooh, I need to get back to this person. I don't actually have any time in this 1 minute period to do anything about those.
Right.
So instead, I'm going to not look, and I'm going to mentally prepare myself for the next meeting. We're talking about like 60-second increments, Tom.
Yeah.
Like what a productivity addict I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but getting to be present, making the most of that next hour, instead of having that next hour be distracted by the random emails that I saw that I can't address right now.
And I think that's the thing is it's just being intentional. I'm going to use your word, being intentional around those things. And it's amazing what can happen when intentionality is brought forth. And we're not just being responsive versus being reactive to everything. So
yes. And Tom, I think when you were talking about your week and you were, essentially doing the principle, the 7 habits of highly effective people, starting with the end in mind, right? I love starting with the end in mind on everything, be it a work project or whatever. But that's one of the guiding principles that we think can really unlock things for people or for families.
Right.
Because we are so busy, we don't take time to say, hey, either what are the values that we want to be showing? What characteristics, what attributes do we want to be living out in our life? What goals are we pursuing?
Yes.
And when we start to define some of those things, it can help us it can help us be almost more of an objective statement where we realize what the trade-off is.
Right.
Oh man, like one of my kids, he's really passionate about learning French. And so it can be something where he's like, hey, this is where I want to get to by this month.
Yeah.
I want to, whatever. And if he has that goal in mind, then the other things that might distract him, be they online or offline, it's more natural. Oh, it's coming at a cost. Yeah. If we don't take time to define what we're striving for, then we don't feel a sense of trade-off.
Right.
And that's where we can start to then end up accidentally giving away so much of our time and attention to things that don't matter. There's a quote that I love. It's by William Carey. I hope that I say it right. It says, I'm not afraid of failure. I'm afraid at succeeding at things that don't matter.
Oh, that's right. I'm going to have to go. I'm going to borrow. You may see me tweet that or put that out.
Good.
I love that one. So I agree. I mean, I think that's my concern as well is, finding myself in a moment, are the things I'm spending so much effort, time, and energy on the right things? And if they're not, what am I going to do about it? Well, we're coming up on time here, and I want to get to a couple more things. So good news is I know you'll be willing to come back for another podcast because there's some other topics that I want to dive down through. But if I'm a person sitting out there listening, saying, hey, Tom, Tracy, got this, I agree with the challenges you talked about. I liked that you have some tools out there. I'm going to go to the website and go look at that. But right now, I don't even know who my kid is. I got a kid at home and I'm having a hard time connecting, or I find my relationships as challenged as they've ever been. And I think, so often we focus on the differences, and the differences lead to anxiety, depression, stress, and can lead us into some really bad spots. But if I would talk about the things that find us alike, love, happiness, fulfillment, contribution, meaning, I don't think any of us would disagree. We want those things. Tracy, what are some things for someone who says, I see the obstacles, I realize these are hindering me. What is something I should start? What is something I should stop? What is something that I need to think about right now that I could do today, this weekend, to begin making a difference?
I love it. There are two things that came to my mind based on some of the things that you were just saying. One is talk to someone about it in a very vulnerable way. Say, hey, to whoever is a key, if you have someone who you are closely living life with, be it a family member or a friend or a colleague, say, hey, I noticed that I am just so struggling with my devices. Are you feeling that in our relationship? Nice. Because overwhelmingly, the other person will say, I am. And then they can start to talk about it, and it'll actually end up influencing both people.
Yeah.
Right. So then they'll say, hey, because it's really hard to just do it alone. So if you say that to a partner, maybe they'll say, man, I really do feel fubbed by your use. That's when you're snubbing someone to use your phone. I really do feel fubbed a lot. And then you can get into a conversation that's like, man, what should we do about this? This is hard. Yeah. Not judging, saying, hey, this is hard. These things are, so anyways, having a conversation by opening it up with vulnerability. Then something you said when you were talking about contribution and meaning, this is a really practical thing. But one of the things that I'm working on doing is upgrading my communication. So if someone posts something on social media and it's something either really exciting or really hard, the natural response is to reply in the same context. So to put a like or put a comment. Yeah. But sometimes I've realized, hey, if it's either especially something on one of those extremes, I'm going to go up one level. I'm going to text that person. I'm going to say, Tom, I just saw this thing happen. How are you feeling? I'm so sorry. Right. I'm so happy. Right. Yeah. And then you actually get some back and forth that you wouldn't have gotten. Or let's say you're on a group text and someone shares with this group text. I have this happen so often where I'll be on a group text and someone shares something that is so hard. Right. And you're like, oh my gosh. And they get a bunch of oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah. Oh, different types of emojis. And so in that case, to be like, you know what, I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to call that person. Yeah. So that's a simple thing too, of maybe pick one or two things in the next day or week to say, I'm going to go up one level of connection beyond what's expected.
I like it. I mean, Tracy, I think sometimes we forget we can still talk to people. Not everything has to be text or done through social media. And I recently went through some life events and I was blown away by the number of people who picked up the phone just to talk to me. And it was good for my heart. It was good for me to remind me what's most important. And that connection, we can't stop being human. Despite all of our love for gadgets and technology, conversation, I think, is a door to endless possibilities on how we can each help each other in that. Tracy, what's a book or tool or something that you would recommend to someone that they should pick up right now if they're wanting to read more about something, or say, you know what, this topic fascinates me, or hey, there's this tool that you would consider?
There are a few different directions I could go. If you're interested in this topic in general, one of our tools would be the Screen Sanity Guide. Gotcha. Another thing, if you're just interested about this topic, Jonathan Haidt I think I mentioned earlier, wrote this amazing article, Why the Past 10 Years of American Life Have Been So Uniquely Stupid. What a great clickbait article in The Atlantic. It's long form. I printed it out, so I figured it was 19 pages. The other thing I would say is I'll list a few tools, because those two pieces, the screen sanity, that's kind of about starting with that end in mind and thinking about what and how do I want this to be, creating a plan, creating a vision. But if you are trying to think about, this is especially for kids, there are 3 specific felt needs that we feel a lot. One is, hey, I'm getting my kid a phone. One is social media. One is video games. And we have a tool for each of those. We have a social media playbook if you want to start having conversation with your kids about social media. We have a smartphone plan if you're thinking about introducing a phone to your kiddo, starting to get there. It's a way that you can have a conversation with them. And then the third thing is we have this video game decision tree, because it's really powerful to think about video games are not bad, but how can we find ways that make them not lead to so much meltdown and frustration? So those are a few specifics that I've mentioned.
So we'll include those in the links in the show notes so that people can easily get to them. And last thing that I want to ask you, you have an opportunity to give someone one word to encourage them, help them, challenge them. What's that one word? Put you on the spot.
This is a question. Words are like shifting through my mind. Hope. I would go hope, connection, empathy, but maybe hope. You are never too far gone. If you are hearing this and feeling guilt about your own actions or about what someone in your life is doing, our brains are able to form.
Yeah.
If we feel like there's a broken connection, we can do our best. It might be hard, and there might be therapy involved, whatever. But it is worth the fight to try to help restore these connections. It will be the most meaningful thing.
I love it. No one's given that word before. And I think in a day and time and age when we need it, hope is a good thing. It's not an uncertain thing. It means that with work, with connection, with intent, something can happen. Something positive can happen. It's why I love sunrises every day, because it reminds me of the new day has found us and what are we going to do with it. And Tracy, that's what your organization does. It gives us hope that these devices, these social media, that we're not subject to them. We have the means and the ability to have them have boundaries within our lives. They can provide some good, and they don't have to be the distraction. And so I encourage everyone today to pause, be intentional, to take the things that Tracy and Start and the team have done. Maybe you're wondering if there is hope. There absolutely is, without question. And we'll put all of that within the notes today. And I want to remind everyone, every day really does matter. And the things that you're being prompted on right now, the things that maybe your heart is nudging you, that phone call that you need to make, that conversation that you need to have, or that dinner with no devices, or you find yourself entering in a room, you can take the opportunity to ensure that every day matters in everything that we do. Thank you very much for joining us, and continue to share your thoughts and ideas, people organizations that we should talk to. And most important, let's all do the things that we can do to make a difference, to be the difference in everyone we come across. Much appreciation. Thank you.
Love it, Tom.
You've been listening to Everyday Matters, a NetSmart podcast. Keep connected with us by subscribing to the show in your favorite podcast player. If you like what you've heard, please rate the show. That helps us keep sharing the stories that inspire our communities. Thanks for listening. Until next time.